What's up, everybody? So, I am playing my Kiso. Yeah, I forget that lick. Anyway, and no hat. You guys can't see. I'm not wearing a hat today. I do have hair up there. Very little, but I do have hair. So let me address some of the questions. This is kind of complicated because I have a lot of questions on a lot of suggestions on stuff to do. A lot. And I don't want to eliminate everybody for like one thing. I want to just show advanced stuff because it's no good for intermediate or beginner. So maybe I'm going to do a series for beginners. And I'll add arpeggios with some scales to kind of help that. Somebody asked for the White Lion to break it down. What I just played, that was Hungry, which is genius pattern playing position. B minor out of the E. What's he do? E first. G. Well, it's a major and minor at one shot. And then he's back into what is it? E, F sharp. Brilliant. And then he holds the keyboard in there. And then he's got a riff here out of the G major. Classic. And then he's got some tapping out of the B minor position. And E minor. Very, very pattern position. Very clever guitar player. He's one of my favorites. That's a real quick breakdown of some of the stuff he does. But I also have a video on here about Vito tapping techniques and some of the stuff. So if you go back through my videos, click on the channel on my picture, and you can scroll through and you'll see a White Lion thing going into a lot of his tapping. But that's a real quick breakdown. And he's playing pattern position on the E minor, and the first one is E, the second note is G. So he's mixing the E minor with the G, relative and major, right off the bat. Clever. One of my favorite guitar players. Why I call out Rick Beato and don't stick to playing. And they made a reference, and I don't have David Gilmour on my thing and this and that. So, just so whoever said that, I don't know you. My channel is not as big as Rick Beato. True. I only came back after my kids are watching YouTube and I saw what guitar was being taught. Some of you know me from 13, 15 years ago, and I had thousands and thousands of views and comments from some of the best guitar players in the world. The best. At age 19, just so he knows, and I don't like talking about my past because it sounds like you're an ego guy. At 19, I outsold the Beatles with no internet, no YouTube, no Instagram. I outsold the Beatles. At 19. I have 16 Grammys, and I write for some of the most famous people in the world, and I've done probably 10 world tours, and I've played with bands like Rat Quiet Riot. I'm personal friends with some of the people like Logan. I was actually in a band with him. If you don't know who that is, that's the first Lynch Mob singer. Small world. And he made a reference, I think, to Reb Beach. I actually do know Reb. Reb and Oni used to paint together for a paint company. They worked together. in South Florida. Oni was in a band called Diamond Rose, and he left Diamond Rose and joined a band called Defiance. I was friends with Ronnie Tompkins, and me, Ronnie, and Oni did a little stint together. And the band Defiance, the singer Ray West went on to sing for Spread Eagle. It's all so connected, a small circle. So the reason why I call people out is exactly for this. I do everything. I can get monetized. I am monetized. I don't get paid. I haven't gone through the process, but I'm eligible to be paid. I choose not to be paid. I do it for free. That's my gig. That's the difference between me and Rick Beato. I'm not trying to sell anything. I'm not trying to bullshit you guys. It's the truth. It's reality. That's why I show you stuff that nobody's going to show you. That's why I can break down songs like that in 2 seconds and you might understand it. And we'll get into some beginner stuff for you guys, in the beginner intermediate stuff. Because you have to start at the beginning. My wife's having a girl party. I tried to sneak in with the hair and the hat off, but that gender thing didn't work. He, him, who, she. Basically, get that out of here. So that's that part. That's the Rick Beato story. So street credibility, I have more. If you put Red Shull, Tim Pierce, and Rick Beato together, I've done more than all of them together in the music industry. So my channel ain't as big, but it's growing at a rapid rate. So there you go. Gear. I'm using a Fractal Turbo 3 for the last couple videos. I use iPhone mics. They're great. They're condenser mics. They move all kinds. This is Zoom Q7. I get a Q6 in there. I use EVH lunchbox amps with bass and cabins. I run the Fractal into the return loop, but I do use a Hughes and Kettner core blade. I did tour with those at one time. I also use a more GE1000. The actual amp inside the Fractal is called the Friedman version 3 V3. It's great. It sounds great. That's what you're hearing now, and I just did these patches not long ago. And somebody had said something about the Red Beach sound or something. I don't know if he was joking or not, but my sound is my signature sound. It's just my sound, you know. I'm not going to turn delays off and everything for lessons. There's very little reverb and delay on there. It's at the tail end. You know, so that's like asking it. I'm not comparing myself to Eddie Van Halen, but if Eddie was showing me Main Street, I'm like, hey man, can you turn your delay off? You know what he would say to me? Get the out of my house. But I'm not offended by that. But no, I'm not going to alter my sound for lesson videos. My sound, because if somebody hears my sound, and I've got a lot of comments of my sound asking what I'm playing through and stuff. People like my sound, so if I'm playing with the sound that I play with, maybe somebody has a question about it and I can actually help them with their sound. But that's what I do. I run into the return effects loop of an EVH lunchbox head. It's 20 watts, it's loud enough for a band, and they're portable. I use Turbo's Fractal 3, and I like it because I can take it anywhere on a plane and go all over the world. And it's great, and you know, it helps me out when I record and stuff, hence why I use a lot of different patches. Bands, I can't really tell. I've signed non-disclosures about who I've written with, and I don't want to get sued even though the channel ain't making money, but I can tell you some of the bands. I just told you I also sold the Beatles. Some of the bands that I have played with or done things with include bands like Chris Rizzola from Steelheart to I just asked Mitch Malloy, who I know. I've asked Brett Carlisle from Great White, who's a friend of mine. Scott in Great White, the bass player, is a friend of mine. I've worked with bands like Rat and Quiet Riot. I've done tours and shows with these bands. I've played with these bands. I've written for a lot of these bands, and I still write today for a lot of pop country artists today, which I'm not allowed to say. So there's some of the bands. Red Shull, Tim Pierce. Tim Pierce is a great guitar player, and I have nothing against him, but the Red and the Rick Beato and stuff. And believe me, I loved Rick Beato at one time, but he's changed because the almighty dollar has tainted his channel, and now his channel has changed. That's why if you see me, if you look at my very old videos, I used the accent and I didn't show my face. and it was because I was playing with a lot of these famous bands at that time. Um, so I didn't want people to know who I was, because YouTube was a lot different. Now I have to be careful of what I do and what I say, because I do show my face and I can mention names and it can slip, but I also have a 9-year-old, so that's why I don't say my name. But if you wanted to find out who I was, I had platinum blonde hair to my waist, and you can contact Rob Shores from Guitar World or Guitar Player Magazine, who writes for them, and ask him, hey, there's this guy Chris that you traded a Taylor acoustic for one of Paul Gilbert's guitars. Can you tell me if he's the real deal? And he will tell you. He might even give you, I don't even remember the covers or the articles on me back in the 80s and those magazines. I don't remember. So that's kind of my credibility as far as street stuff. I studied with Holsworth at GIT. I was in classes with Paul Gilbert, Jason Becker, Marty Friedman. I was one of those shred kids. I was younger. I studied with Steve Morris at University of Miami as well, from the Dixie Dregs. Oof, incredible guitar player. So, Chipsons. Somebody had made a comment about my guitar saying that they were Chipsons. So let me show you the guitar that I use, just so you can see the back. This is a custom shop. That's all copper, and that's all custom wiring. Chipson doesn't do stuff like that. Just so you guys know. I own all real guitars in here. There is no fake guitar in here. There's a Gibson Lizzie Hale. That's a GC Platinum Series. They made 300 of those. That is a Japanese Randy Rhoads Spec Les Paul. That is 120th anniversary that I got from a trade with my singer. The blue is the Epiphone Tommy Thayer, and this is a studio custom. I've had many, many Les Pauls, and I still have some in my warehouse. So these aren't even half of what I own. Not even a quarter, not a tenth, not a 16th. I have a lot of guitars, my touring guitars over there, and some of the other stuff. You can't even see everything that's on the wall. So that takes care of all that. Now, what I'm probably going to end up doing, because you guys are making the channel really grow, is I'll do stuff in series. So I'll do like maybe some advanced scale runs with scales. So I'll show like beginner scales from how I learned and how to move a major scale with the root note to different keys, and triads and arpeggios. So arpeggios, triads, and tapping are all almost like the same thing. It's a 1-3-5 out of a major scale. If you guys understand that, great for you. But we'll get into that for the beginner intermediate stuff. So that's about it, really. I don't know what else to tell you. It's a Saturday night. I got kicked out of the house. The wife's having a girl party for a Christmas craft party with all her girlfriends. So I had to take my son, and we were out. We went out and ate and shopped at the mall, and now I'm back here in my room being nice and quiet. So that's about the rundown of what's coming up and what I'm going to do. If you guys have any suggestions, I will always try to answer what you guys put in there, depending on how big the channel gets. But I will always try to go through the comments, answer, and help you the best that I can. It's hard because there are people all over the world watching these videos, and to address everybody or go through their problems is very hard. I wish I could give you guys all private lessons one-on-one, but it would take 2 weeks, 3 weeks just to run through the amount of subscribers. That's over 15, almost 1,600 now. That's 1,600 hours. I don't even know how many hours in a week, but if I work 40 hours a week times 40 weeks, it's almost a year every day. Doing lessons 8 hours a day, and then the rotation would start over. So that's about it as far as everything that I can address. Now, I gave you some of the White Lion stuff a little bit, like a taste, some of the gear. And the Kiesel is my number one guitar. That's what I used to record with. It's not my number one playing guitar as far as, it's just very well versed. They are very expensive, and I don't agree with the price that they put them for, but unfortunately it is an incredible instrument. Same thing with, I know these EVH lunch boxes are a little expensive, but I try to get everybody to find these used. Same with the fractals. You know, you can buy a more GE 1000. You can't get them right now, but like I got mine for $400. There's tons of videos on here, and there are videos of like harmonized arpeggios and beginning to shred. If you go back to the beginning of when I started, you'll see G major scale and the beginning of to start of shredding. You will see videos, but we'll rehash those and I'll update them and we'll go through them and I'll talk about everything that's in there. So like for instance, let me show you something that you guys, if you take a 1-3-5 out of the G major scale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, 5, 1, 3, 5. That's what makes up a chord. 1, 5, octave, 3. 1. So if I take this G and put it on the A, that's how you match the tapping to that, is through a triad. Now what it's also a triad, if you play it all the way up in a series through the scale pattern, that becomes a G major arpeggio. So the 1-3-5 also arpeggios go through that. Now you can just take a 1-3-5 and you can find the octave. I call it a triad arpeggio. Some of that can be real easy when I explain it. So we'll get into some of that stuff, and there's a lot of advanced stuff. Like I said, I'll get into some of the weird scales that I play. A lot of people do runs like, that's an Ingve fourth. Those are fourths. Randy Rhoads would legato threes, and then he would double. He would double that. I don't play my scales like that. One of the scales that I do play is I jump strings, I play forwards, backwards, jump in a string, go back to the string I play. That's very advanced stuff and it's very hard. We will get into some of the scale runs. That doesn't sound like a normal scale because it's not. The scale is normal, but I approach it in the same manner that I do pattern and position, and I've created my own scale runs based on patterns inside of stuff that other people have done. So we'll get into all that for the advanced guys, and we'll go back to the beginning of the 1-3-5 and the triads for beginner intermediate. So I hope this helps and clears up a lot of stuff. If you have suggestions on how I should do videos, like maybe like a series 1 beginner scales, scales intermediate 1, advanced scales advanced scales 1, and do series based on that kind of stuff, it leaves some people out, but it would get separated, and I would have to do probably 3 videos based on that per week. Maybe I do 1 on the whole G major by position, and then we go into the advanced stuff and the intermediate stuff in there. I don't know. If you have any suggestions on that, please let me know. Anyway, peace and have a great week. And let me think about how to do this so that everybody gets included. All right, have fun, have a great week. And again, I don't get mad on comments and stuff like that. I just want people to understand what I'm about and what I am doing and why I am doing it. That's all. So, have a great week. Peace.